I'm Jane, and I make the kind of artwork you can see behind me. I call them paper patchworks, and they're made from cutting up pieces of pattern that either I've made myself or I've rescued from other places. Sometimes when I can't quite get going, I will work at postcard size. It's peculiarly satisfying. I love postcards, and it's been a great help to me during the lockdown to have this as a place I can go to feel better and to make something. The other thing that's been really helpful has been going out walking. So I've decided to offer you these two things put together in a project I'm calling Paper Patchwork Postcards, to say that quite carefully. And here are some prototypes that I made in February when things were a lot more wintry. As you can see, I've found inspiration in tree branches, also moss, pussy willows, which were quite difficult to show. I tried lots of different ways, and the red of dogwood sticks. Since then, I wanted to say that I was also absolutely fascinated by lichen, that kind and that kind, and so I ended up keeping these and not cutting them up because I like them so much. The techniques I'm going to show you are around developments in nature that are going on now in late March, around the growth of celandines, which are going to carpet the whole place soon, gorse, which is coming out en masse, as well as harking back to tree branches, but this time hopefully with some buds on them. By the time you see this video, probably in April, nature will have moved on again. So what I hope is that you'll be able to use my approach of going out and looking at nature and thinking about how you could show it in easy ways with printing or dragging a comb across paper, any number of different techniques, whether you'll think of your own which are more appropriate to what you can see in the future. Oh, one final thing I wanted to say, it makes a lot of sense and sort of completes the circle for me to use cardboard and paper for the project, which I've rescued from things that have come in the post, so they can go out in the post again in a new form. Right, so the technique demonstration is about to begin. I'm going to try printing a pattern of celandine leaves, which are like little hearts but rounded, using some polystyrene. That's it. So I've cut out a piece of polystyrene from one of these, so it's relatively flat. I'm not going to try and print the whole postcard size, but just a sort of, I'm going to do rows of leaves. So I'm going to cut a strip like this and cut it out. And draw on it with a biro so that it pushes into the polystyrene. So I'm going to draw little rounded heart-shaped things, which I'm hoping will look like massed celandine leaves, which are starting to appear. And then I'm going to create little yellow celandines amongst them to make a rather beautiful pattern, I hope, if it works. This is all experimentation, but rather fun. A pattern of celandine leaves. I have mixed some paint, semi-mixed it anyway, and I'm going to try it two ways. I'm going to try printing in a dark green on a light green background and in a light green on a dark green background, because I don't know which one is going to work best. So starting with the dark green on the light background. So print across the top. Oh yeah, like that. More paint. Print again, slightly overlapping. Just want a feeling of all those massed leaves. And keep printing to the bottom of the page. Let's have a bit of white paint just over here. Mix it with this green that I've got. Quite a lot of white there, maybe too much. Never mind. Mix in the green. I want it to be quite a lot lighter and brighter green than the green that I've got there. Yes, I think that about works. So try this again. Always use both. Now that doesn't work quite so well, I don't think. I don't think it quite, but it will give a texture. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is wrong. Interesting. I'm now going to put the celandines onto my pre-printed celandine leaves. I've mixed a little bit of yellow with white to make sure that the yellow shows up on top of the green. Now I'm doing a blob in the middle with this little paintbrush to show the centre of the first celandine. Now celandine has 8 petals, and that makes it quite easy because they're evenly spaced. So here's my first petal. I'm putting my point of the brush down quite gently and then moving it towards the centre and pressing harder as I go to make the petal swell a bit as it does. Now I'm turning it and doing another one at right angles. So point down and press a bit harder to the centre. Same again, point down, press a bit harder, point down. So that's 4 petals. Now in between, actually I find they look more realistic and less wooden if you sort of move the brush a little bit as you paint, once you've got your confidence up, to make them, because they're not absolutely static like that, they're quite imperfect. Right, so there's the first celandine. I shall do another one of a slightly different size, because as you will notice they come out all different sizes. There's the middle, first point, they're like 8 pointed stars, I think. Very beautiful, especially at this time in the year when they first appear, although I understand that conscientious gardeners can get a bit fed up with them towards the end. Okay, There's my second one, slightly smaller than the first. Now, the next thing is to do the middle. The middles are very slightly orangier than the petals. So I'm mixing a tiny bit of red, and I'm going to make the middle with a cotton bud. And just dab it. Like that. So there, my first two celandines, and here is a complete sheet that I prepared earlier, Blue Peter style. And remember that this is probably going to be cut up, so it's good to sort of spread the celandines all over the paper, even though they're not doing that yet in real life. They will soon. So now I'm going to use another printing technique with another piece of rubbish to have a go at printing tree bark. I'm using some of this thicker packaging material that comes with electronic goods, and I've scored it again with my trusty biro. Do a bit more because it's got a texture on already, but I want it to have some of the lines that you get on a piece of tree bark. Now, as you can see, this is not really tree colour, but I'm using poetic license and doing some spring-like colours. So that might look like blue, but it's actually purple. It's meant to be purple, and I'm going to print on it in a much lighter purpley colour to echo the violets and pansies and bluebells that will very soon be out and be brightening up our lives. So there we go. I will print it on the side, push it down relatively hard, and what comes up, yes, quite a nice texture. Do the other side again. And yes, I am relatively happy with that. Now, this is an experiment. I'm going to try and create some massed tree trunks like you get, Hazel does it a lot, and you certainly get it if you look through hedges and so on. But I'm going to try and use a technique that I learned from my friend Paul, who makes landscape paintings, and use some tape, some masking tape. Tear it because I don't want it to be thick. And I'm going to make shapes of tree trunks with it. I should mention that I've taken the precaution of painting this paint over with a coat of PVA glue, in the hope that when I peel these pieces of tape off, the paper won't tear. But we shall see. It may or may not work. Paul does this to create hills and trees and all sorts in his work. Very lovely it is too. But I am trying to adapt it for my more detailed look at landscape. So we've got a dark colour background, so I'm doing a light colour over the top. There we go. Now I'm going to take the tape off immediately in the hope that it won't have stuck to the paper and pull it, the paint, and pull it off. No, haha, that worked. That worked. Not bad. To make the twigs coming off the tree trunks, I'm using a bit of cardboard, which is flexible so it doesn't come out completely straight, which is what you want. Now I'm going to twigs against the sides of my trees to start with, like this. Remember, even if you don't think this looks like trees and twigs, really doesn't matter, because it evokes trees and twigs and is attractive colours. And when you cut it up into patchworks and put it down, it won't matter if it looks right or not. Actually, I don't think it looks bad. Now I'm going to get a bit wilder and print the twigs all over the place. Yes, why not? Make an all-over pattern that will look good on my paper patchwork. There. Quite happy with that. Put that to one side, and now I'm going to use the same bit of cardboard but darker paint to print some tree branches against the sky. So these are in silhouette, so they'll be dark. So I found it very interesting looking at the different ways that tree branches grow, the different patterns they make against the sky. I think this one has got some of the characteristics of an oak, these sort of curves and curves down, gentleness, whereas a hawthorn will be all twiggy and spiky. But anyway, as I've said, it's more about evoking tree branches against the sky and they don't have to be exactly recognisable as an oak or anything really. Slightly change the colour, put some other colours, slightly lighter version there, poetic license, artistic license, there, satisfied with that. And look at it, those two together, yes, very happy with those, they're going to look like good patterns. My next pattern is based on gorse. As you know, gorse is very dark green and very prickly, and the prickles are very tiny, so I couldn't think of a way to show them satisfactorily except by making a wiry, fuzzy looking textured background, for which I've brought into use this toothbrush. So it needs to be relatively dry, and to rub the textural pattern, mixing the green a bit as I go. All over this piece of paper. Once I've got it relatively well covered, and go for the very dark green of the gorse. There, I think that will just about do. Now my gorsey background is dry, and I'm ready to apply little gorse flowers. I'm going to do this with a cotton bud. I'm coating the cotton bud with yellow mixed with a little bit of white to ensure brightness, and I'm going to print the flowers like so, using the side of the cotton bud. Whoops. It's good you can fix mistakes like this. I like to think that this is gorse as seen with half closed eyes. But it's a pattern. It evokes gorse. I love the smell of gorse in the summer. It's not quite all out yet, but it soon will be, and again this is slightly looking forward in our part of the world. So, and go on like that and produce one I made earlier. So here are the 6 patterns that I made, and here they are in postcard form, chopped up and stuck down and sewn over on a sewing machine, which seemed to give them more unity. I've used triangles and hexagons and more triangles and some crazy patchwork. And finally, which we'll come to in a minute, and finally the celandines, the second sheet of celandines whole, because I liked them so much. I hope you've enjoyed this and it will inspire you to do your own thing. Thank you. And goodbye.